Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. I'm a slightly croaky host. If you can hear it in my voice, it's slightly not there. It's kind of going. This isn't sleep. This isn't caused by any sleep deprivation. I have been sleeping well. Don't worry. Despite the ridiculous hours of the kickoffs of the World Cup in Australia, but no, I had a 21st last night. Was indulging. And yeah, I didn't get I drove there, so I wasn't, of course, not drinking. As a result of that, I ensured no hangover. I was like, I needed to be. I don't think I would be able to do it hungover, considering that I would have to wake up early, get this out before 2, and when I'm hungover, I stay in bed till about 3 o'clock. So, that couldn't have worked. But no, so yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Just slightly croaky. Lost the voice a little bit, as you can tell. I apologize if this is a slightly less more audio or hearing appealing episode. Hopefully, my voice will be back tomorrow, and it'll be fully fine when we review tomorrow's games. And of course, there's one big game which we'll be touching on, which we'll touch on, of course, at the end of this podcast. But no, I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone had a fantastic day yesterday. Hope everyone enjoyed the football, despite despite some boringness with it. But this has been a little bit of a theme of this World Cup, but it is what it is. Um, yeah, hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's well. And do we crack on? Do I need to say anything else? No, I don't. Do I crack on or do I need to say anything else? As I was saying, no, we're gonna crack on. Actually, plugging all the stuff. Subscribe to the Two Foot Tackle podcast as I'm obliged to plug, um, as I'm obliged to plug all the stuff, all the socials. So yeah, subscribe to the Two Foot Tackle podcast YouTube channel, notifications as well. Apologies that the last two episodes have gone out slightly later than 2 p.m. First one went out at 2:30, and tomorrow went out at 2:15. Or yesterday went out at 2:15, I should say. Just YouTube. The 2 days ago was an uploading error, so I had to upload it again, which just delayed it. And then the day out, and then yesterday was a processing error. So out of my control, unfortunately, but it is what it is. It kind of just ruined my OC day a little bit. I want it to be 2 p.m. every single day. But it is what it is. 2:30, 2 o'clock. It's by the by, really. Same, but different. But yeah, hopefully it should be up by 2 o'clock. If it's not, if for whatever reason it's delayed by any time, I'll tweet about it. You'll go on Instagram. I'll let everyone know on the socials. Don't worry about it. So yeah, if you want to find the socials and if you want to follow it for any updates, head on over to the description of the YouTube. Then you'll find it all there. And I don't think you would have gone. I don't think you're going to be listening to the audio if you don't already know what the socials are, because that's just, yeah. But yeah, what else are we gonna? We're gonna crack on. Yeah, let's go. Let's start. Wales versus Iran as the first game. Are we? Have I done finished saying everything? I have done. I've finished saying everything. So let's crack on with the first game, and that is Wales Iran. Now, this is a game which I was looking forward to for a couple of reasons. Firstly, looking at it from an Iran perspective, I wanted to see, maybe not Iran themselves, but I wanted to see everyone's reaction to Iran, because the first time, kind of, or the only experience at this World Cup that people have had of Iran was being dismantled by a scintillating England side. Scintillating England side. Um, so I wanted to see people's reactions when they came up against a team who they're potentially better than, or if not, at least on par with, and see just how good they can be. Of course, if you look at how the game panned out, Wales had a little bit more possession and had more of the chances in the first half. Um, Wales had more chances in the first half. They really did dominate the game. It kind of went to how a lot of people would expected it to go in that first half. Wales being the more dominant side, Wales being a side that really were like pressing the issue, being a little bit more aggressive, kind of asserting themselves on the game. However, they couldn't break through, and that's something that which we saw against the USA in the game before. They obviously got a point in that game through a penalty, but apart from that, they really didn't create any big chances, and they do rely heavily on little bits of individual brilliance. Um, a little bits of individual brilliance in that final third to score a lot of their goals, and they're very heavily reliant on Kiefer Moore, which is something that if you're going to be a top international side, you can't be relying that heavily on a player who, with all due respect, isn't the elite, right? And when you look at it, when you look at how the game panned out, Wales of course had obviously, like I said, they dominated the first half. Both sides went into half time. Iran needed to change things, and they did tactically. They changed things, mentality wise. They changed things, and structurally and instructions wise, they changed things, and they got back into the game. They got back into the game in that second half, and they got back into the game in a little bit of a better way. So what I mean by that is they were pressing the issue a little bit more. They got on top of the game more than what Wales had in that first half. And this goes to show, right, when you look into that, when you look at that second half, Iran kind of had little flurries in a sense. They kind of attacked really aggressively, had a lot of the momentum, had a lot of the ball, and then they kind of sat back, conserved their energy, and then they went again, right? And this is partly to do with the like styles make fights in a sense, right? So that's obviously a phrase which is used obviously in fights, right, in combat sports. Styles make fights, and that obviously can be translated to literally any other sport. When you look at tennis, if you have a big server versus a poor returner, it doesn't really matter how good the other aspects of the player's games are. The person with the big serve is probably going to get on top of the game purely because in that one very, very key aspect of the game, he's better than the other player. If you look at it, this obviously translates to, like, obviously styles make fights in combat sports. That's obviously very self-explanatory, and it obviously translates back into football, right? Because when you have a team, when you have two sides who are relatively similarly matched, there is a kind of a certain way that you can play in order to expose the other team. And what I mean by that, and it was very evident in this game, was Iran's use of the counter-attack. Iran's use of the counter-attack was one of the kind of, maybe not archetypal, but one of the cleverest ways of using a counter-attack. And what I mean by that is Wales and Iran are very similar teams in terms of the players at the disposal are very similar. Their well-roundedness is very similar. And Wales don't have the technical ability like Spain, England, Germany, Portugal, Netherlands, Uruguay, France. They don't have the technical ability of those sides to break teams down, to control possession, to pass it around, and be really kind of scintillating in the way that they play. And because of that, because they don't have the individual ability to pick up the ball, take a man on, play a 1-2 pass, fizz that ball into the striker, get it back off him and score. They don't have that class about them. And what that means is that in order to break a side that sits in a relatively low block like Iran did, was they needed to flood more numbers forward to create numerical overloads. When you have numerical overloads, it doesn't really matter how good the players are. If you have a 2v1, at the professional level, the two should 99% of the time beat the one, right? So it doesn't really matter the quality of the player in that respect as long as they have those numerical overloads. Especially in wide areas, especially in areas in between the lines, the more numerical overloads you've got and the more number and the more quantity of numbers you've got is good. It's a lot better and it works. However, what that means is when you have sides sitting very deep like Iran did, and they kind of suck you into when they kind of suck the opposition in and they tease the opposition in to play with those numerical overloads in order to try and break them down. What that means is that if you get that quick turnover, you've got numbers and you've got space to work with and you've got space to burn, and that's where Iran were really, really dangerous, especially on the counter attack. And that is because Wales didn't have the technical ability to break Iran down, meaning that they had to overexpose themselves in order to get those numerical advantages, thus leaving them open and thus leaving them very, very exposed to the counterattack. So it was a kind of a chess game, which was kind of very interesting to go back and watch, because a lot of people were kind of saying, "Oh, Wales should win this quite comfortably." A lot of people rate the Wales squad. I don't necessarily rate them as highly as what a lot of people do. That is partly because of their over-reliance on Kiefer Moore, who we saw in the first game against the USA. When he wasn't playing, they had absolutely nothing up front. And yeah, it shows that there's obviously a key avenue to success for Wales, and there's obviously like a key avenue where they can attack from, and like kind of a forward fulcrum where they can build the rest of their game off. But when it's Kiefer Moore, and not like, with all due respect, he isn't the elite of football. So like that's why people were going into this tournament saying Wales could get out of the group, and I was thinking about it, and I was saying no chance they were getting out of the group. They're by far the fourth best team in that group, by far. It's not even close to me. The gap between Wales and the USA is far closer than it is from Wales to Iran, because despite the talent they've got, they just play such a, I wouldn't say cowardice, but it's such a system that is void of any sort of real tactical nuance and ability to break teams down. Like I said, they're so heavily reliant on Kiefer Moore, and I think a lot of people pre-tournament were really, really overrating them. For me, they were absolutely no chance of getting out of the group. They, of course, are practically no chance of getting out of the group right now as things stand. People were just drastically overrating them, and to me, this 2-0 result to Iran didn't come as a shock to me. I predicted it last podcast, because the talent disparity potentially isn't as great as what it could be, but the tactical disparity is so great. Like, it is ridiculous how tactically nuanced and how tactically fluid Iran are compared to Wales. It's not even a competition. So this kind of this result, excuse me, has kind of once again not come as a shock to me in the slightest, because when you look at, like I said, when you look at this, I mean, I predicted it. I said 2-0. Granted, I changed it to 2-1, but take my first answer. Yeah, I was kind of looking at that and just thinking, sorry, as I stopped my recording there so briefly. It didn't come as a shock to me in the slightest, this performance, which maybe it came as a shock to a lot of people, and I'm not kind of sticking my nose up and saying, oh, look at how good I am. I know so much more about football than everyone else. But it's about isolating topics, right? Because once again, you can say I can think as much as I want. I predicted Iran to beat Wales. I know so much about football. I'm also the same bloke that predicted Qatar to get through to the group. And also the same bloke that I think said I don't think Ecuador would get a point. And they've got 4. So like it's kind of, it comes and goes, right? It swings around the bouts with predictions. Once again, it's football, right? It's practically a 50-50 chance, let's be honest. So it's a 50-50 chance because you're either right or you're wrong. So yeah, it's kind of funny how things panned out. But yeah, they're just 2 cents on Iran and Wales, I should say. As we move into the back ends of the game, after I've just given a rant about Wales, Wayne Hennessy is now Jorge Masvidal. What is with people getting kneed in the face this World Cup? Like, I mean, we saw in the Saudi Arabia game, that was absolutely gruesome. Like, just head injuries in general. Oh, how's the voice there? Head injuries in general. Like, obviously, you had the Saudi Arabia game, that horrific injury to that player. I can't remember who it was, but he's surely his tournament's done, right? I'm pretty sure it is. I think he had like a fractured collarbone, or I mean cheekbone, or maybe even a fractured skull, unfortunately. But no, that was gruesome. You obviously had the Iran goalkeeper against England. That was horrendous as well. And he had this as well. I'm not too sure the ramifications in terms of, did the player get subbed at the end? No, funny enough, the player didn't actually get subbed off, which is quite funny. But still, it was just absolute. That it was gruesome. It was quite. You were shuddering at the thought of what potentially that could have been, because especially when you're running full pelt at someone, and you get knee in the face, and you get kind of like a whiplash effect where your head goes back before the rest of your body, and like the rest of your body sweeps underneath you. You can hit your head, man. Like, that's so, like, yeah, fuck. I'll watch that. I was like, jeez, that's not good. And of course, we've seen it like so many other times, especially when you're mid-air and you get hit. Not good either. But yeah, that was obviously, of course, caused a red card, which didn't really lead to the goals, but kind of played a big hand in the goals. If you were to, you would think that maybe with all 11 men, Wales were able to get something out of that game. But once again, it's football, and it's so good. Like, It's so good, and something about football, and that's Asian football, is pretty good. It's quite funny, isn't it? It's quite funny how the talk about we need less Asian, like we need to start thinking about how many Asian teams get to the World Cup. You're sleeping on them, absolutely sleeping on them. They, especially, it's kind of it's two different style, as the voice goes again. I don't know if it's as like pick up a ball on the mic, but in my own headset, I can tell it so differently. And this is with two blocked ears because of the big doof doof from last night. Anyway, it's kind of, when we speak about Asian football, it's kind of in two sections, or two clearly defined sections. Anyway, there are obviously other sections, because I'll speak about this, and I'll speak about once I speak about this, you'll understand. But you have the East Asian teams, the likes of South Korea, Japan, more predominantly, who are just so technically, just so proficient. That is obviously something which they pride themselves on. This just being just so technical, just being able to pick up the ball. Like, every single one of those players is a playmaker. They're playmakers. They can pick up the ball. They can dictate the tempo. So comfortable, so composed, and they're just fluid. They're just fluid. That's kind of what Japan pride themselves on, in a sense. They are obviously very structured and very disciplined as well, but I feel like that's a little bit more, I wouldn't say representative, but that's kind of a little bit more synonymous with South Korea a little bit. But when we speak about like that whole Eastern Asian bloc when it comes to football, just being so technically sound, being so technically proficient, being so, yeah, just being like so technical. So many technical players, man, and it allows them to be very fluid, very interchangeable, and allows them to go into different areas of the pitch, if that makes sense. So if they want to make it a scrap, they can make it a scrap, because the once I speak about the discipline as well, they can make it a scrap. If they want to make it a elegant footballing game, they can do that. If they want to sit back and defend and hit on the counter, they can do that, because Japan and South Korea, in particular, of course, they're the two predominant teams in that East Asian bloc, right? They are just so technically sound, so technically sound. It is like, if you watch Asian football, obviously when the qualifiers come around, I keep a key eye on it, keep a keen eye on it. Similarly with the Asian Cup, just so, yeah, it's magnificent to watch, absolutely magnificent to watch. And then when you move to like the Middle East Asian sides, the likes of Iran, the likes of Saudi Arabia, the likes of the UAE, Qatar even, it's it's once again, it's different. But what you have with this is just, it's kind of do anything to win, and this unrivaled, I would say, discipline, but also just hunger and desire to win at all costs, win. And we've seen it. Obviously, Saudi Arabia didn't say die against Argentina. Iran didn't say die against Wales, and it's very good to watch. I am very jealous as an Australian who have struggled to find their identity, and struggled to find what they are in football, and where they are and their kind of purpose. But it is what it is. You just got to take your hat off and applaud them, because it's special. It's special. It really is special to look at these sides who have been so heavily underestimated, so heavily discarded, and like, people who know, like, and once again, I don't want to stick my nose up and say, oh, whatever, because I had Iran finishing third, I had Saudi Arabia finishing third, I had Qatar finishing second, I had Japan finishing third, I had Australia finishing second, I had South Korea finishing third. So really, I only had two Asian sides making it. I didn't have any Asian side finishing bottom. I don't think. Maybe I had South Korea bottom. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think I had any. I don't think I had any Asian side finishing bottom. Um, I had two going through, and the rest finishing third. Let's be honest. Saudi Arabia can go through. Japan can go through. South Korea, if they get a result against Ghana, can definitely go through, and Iran can definitely go through. Saudi Arabia, Japan, South Korea, Iran can definitely go through. All those four sides can. And I mean, I don't want to tempt fate. But if Australia get all 3 points against Tunisia, they go into the final game against Denmark with everything to play for, right? So many of these sides are still well within it. I said this pre-tournament, you're going to underestimate them at your peril. Underestimate them at your peril. And it kind of came to a shock to me that a lot of people were underestimating them because I thought it was common knowledge just how good they were. Especially Japan, South Korea, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Qatar to a little bit of a lesser extent, but you had Iran and Saudi Arabia were the top qualifying teams. Japan and South Korea finished second in their respective groups, but we all know just how good they are, right? We all know the talent that they possess. South Korea, we all know what they did back in 2018. They beat Germany. Japan got to the round of 16 and really should have got to the quarters. Qatar obviously won the Asian Cup. I think they have been a victim of their own demise in a sense, in terms of not being able to play a lot of football. But in competitive football, because they didn't need to qualify. When you look at and then you look at, I think even if the UAE got into this tournament, if they beat Australia and if they beat Peru, they could have given it a good shake as well. It's quite funny. I just find it quite funny. That's all. About how underrated they are. But yeah, a little bit of a rant there. Maybe I say I do this rant and then I'm gonna have to speak about Senegal versus Qatar. Nice. So yeah, apologies there as my voice is croaky a little bit. What this means: permutations for the group. Wales all but out unless I think the only way that Wales can get through is if what is it? Let me check. Let me quickly check the group. Don't want to it's if the USA and Iran draw or the USA win and Wales beat England by about 9-0. 7-0, I think. 8-7-0. Which, I mean, stranger things have happened. We saw Spain beat Costa Rica 7-0. So, who knows what might happen. But yeah, let's move on. Let's go to Senegal versus Qatar. And this game, I don't want to speak about the game too much because it was pretty... It ended 3-1, but it was pretty much as everyone would expect. Senegal far too strong, dominated the game, dominated possession, far too comfortable. We saw what they did in the Netherlands game. They're probably the best side in that group in terms of like their performances, despite only having 3 points, despite being third in that group as things stand, and despite Ecuador being very good, which we'll touch on next. Senegal are probably technically the best side in that group. So comfortable on the ball, can dictate tempo, just so good, so good. Dominated, especially the first half. Absolutely destroyed Qatar. Something which you all pretty much expected because of how poor Qatar were against Ecuador and how good Senegal were against the Netherlands. Obviously, the talent disparity is quite clear. The tactical disparity is quite clear, and also the confidence disparity would be quite clear as well. Senegal, despite losing, would definitely hold their heads very, very high at the end of that Netherlands game because of just how well they performed. They definitely deserved all 3 points, in my opinion. Whereas Qatar were absolutely dreadful against Ecuador. They wouldn't have stopped hearing about it I don't know what the press situation is like in Qatar, but they would have that game playing all over in their minds. Some just costly errors, poor decision making. So their confidence would have been shot. So it was pretty much a formality that Senegal were going to get a result here. I predicted 2-1 Senegal or 2-0 Senegal, I think. So yeah, Qatar, credit to them, did get back into the game a little bit in the second half, which they kind of showed that against Ecuador, but they couldn't really get anything going. They did, of course, get within one goal before Senegal got that all important third goal and really put the game to bed. I wanted to speak about Qatar. Now, where do we start? Because they're the first team which is now mathematically gone from the World Cup. The host nation, for the first time in... Is it ever? I think it might be ever. I'm just gonna fact check this. I'm just gonna fact check this, but I think it might be the first time. At the World Cup, host nations at the World Cup. So Qatar are the earliest. Are the earliest host country to get eliminated. I think they might be the first. Yeah, so Qatar joins South Africa as the only countries to get knocked out of the World Cup in the group stage. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, they're the second side in history to get eliminated in the group stage. They're the earliest host nation to get eliminated at the group stage, and it's just, what can you say? Like, what can you say? Because sorry, as my voice is getting progressively worse. But what can you say? Like, what can you say? Because how can you spend so much money, like so much money, on this tournament? Both literally in terms of spending money on the tournament itself and the infrastructure and the staffing and the operation of it, right? Like, in that literal aspect. But how can you spend so much money building up your football side? And I saw this tweet by Josh Parrish, if I can find it. I think it was from Josh Parrish anyway. No, it wasn't from Josh Parrish. Surely it was. I swear it was. It wasn't. Oh, there you go. Did I like it? I'll try to find it if I liked it. But no, it didn't. No, it didn't. I can't find it. Anyway, I thought it was from Josh Parrish. It wasn't. But basically, it just outlined what Qatar did, and basically, if I can remember it rightly, and if I can paraphrase, they just spent a ridiculous amount of money. If you do your research, I think there's a fantastic series on TFO Football, the YouTube channel, unbelievable YouTube channel. I think it might have been episode 2 or 3 of their 5-part documentary on the Qatar World Cup, and it spoke about the Qatari football, like the football, not the actual tournament, but the football itself, right? And it spoke about the way that the Qatari national team has come to be about, in a sense. Of course, they have a history of nationalising a lot of players. However, I think it may have been 2010, maybe 2008. They developed the Aspire Academy. I think it was an Aspire Academy, where basically they just spent billions of dollars, if not a billion or more dollars, on football, the development of football in that country. And they've had it would have been 2010. It would have been announced. So they've had 12 years. They've had 12 years to kind of get their shit sorted, and we all thought that they did. Granted, I can't remember what the qualification was back in their last qualification campaigns have been like. If we look at Qatar, so let's go with the Asian Cup. So the Asian Cup group in 2011, they finished second in their group, right? Which is okay, not bad. In 2015, they finished rock bottom. Rock bottom in 2015, the Asian Cup, right? They made it to the third round of qualification in 2014. They didn't get out. They finished fourth. In 2010, they finished fourth again, and in 2018, they finished rock bottom of their groups, of the qualification groups, right? So when you look at the qualification, and that was 2018, you're thinking, okay, fuck. I think maybe, what did they do in the 2011 Asian Cup? If I can scroll back so far on SofaScore as I stall for a moment. Here we go. 2011 Asian Cup. They lost to Japan. Guys, they lost to Japan in on extra time. They lost to Japan. So not on extra time. They lost to Japan 3-2 in the 2011 Asian Cup in the round of 16. Right. So it's almost like from 2018 onwards. So from 2008, I think that's when the academy opened, to 2018. Hadn't worked. Dreadful, shocking, abysmal. Didn't qualify for a World Cup. Didn't really do anything at the Asian Cup. However, in 2019, things just changed. And they started winning. And they started winning. And they started winning. And they started winning more. And they won the Asian Cup in 2019. This was their first proper tournament since the qualification campaign. And if you want to say proper tournament, they played the Golf Cup, which I don't know how seriously that's taken within the golf, right? But they finished second in their group. And they lost in the semi-finals to Saudi Arabia. I don't know how seriously that's taken. I'm not too clued up. I don't know if it's kind of like the Asian Games, if that's kind of, or maybe like the Nations League. I'm not quite sure. But And they won the Asian Cup, and they won it scintillatingly. They beat Lebanon 2-0, North Korea 6-0, Saudi Arabia 2-0, Iraq 1-0, South Korea 1-0, the UAE 4-0, and Japan 3-1. They were fucking unbelievable. And it's like, it's kind of like you don't really know how it kind of works, because how can they be so poor all of a sudden? How can they be so poor? Of course, they didn't need to They didn't need to qualify because of um they were hosted it, but they played the Gold Cup last year. They drew to Panama 3-0. They beat Grenada 4-0. They beat Honduras 2-0. They beat El Salvador 3-2, and they beat Qatar. They lost to the USA 1-0 in the quarterfinals by being more than reasonable in that game. It almost seems that like the lack of proper international games and the lack of proper competitiveness within the last 12 months has hurt them heavily. Playing friendlies isn't a substitute in the slightest. It's just so concerning how they can spend so much money on like, forget about the running of the tournament, forget about the operations, the infrastructure, the staffing, everything. Forget about the tournament itself. Let's just speak about the football. The fact that they can spend billions of dollars on the football, and the fact that they can change their philosophy and stop nationalizing players and start developing players from the kind of bringing people in the promise of them playing football at the elite level. And the fact that they can do that and still dish out this rubbish and this dross is fucking abysmal. It's shocking. It's just terrible. And it's like, I mean, once again, they're the second host nation to get knocked out of the group stage, right? First one was South Africa. Very, very easy to root for South Africa. Very, very easy to root for South Africa. I, of course, was 6 at the time, so I can't remember anything of that tournament apart from the Australian games and the final. But it's very hard to root for Qatar. And due to no fault of the players themselves, by the way. No fault, of course not. It never is, right? No fault of the players themselves. They are so, I assume, they're so innocent in all of this, right? And they're kind of, I wouldn't say at the behest, but their people's feelings towards them are so not actually involved with them. But what you have is a very, very unlikable state that we like to see their downfall in any regard, and that if that involves their football team, that involves their football team. It's a shame, but once again, I think they're going to be pretty shameful to the fact that they've spent billions of dollars on their football team and have been the earliest host nation to ever been eliminated from the World Cup. Scored 1 goal in 2 games, conceded 5. Just abysmal, really. Just shocking. Not good enough. Terrible. And toodaloo. Au revoir. Because what can you say? We're touching on 33 minutes here. Let's move on. Netherlands, Ecuador. Ecuador quite good, actually. It's that's literally what I've got up my notes. My first slide. Ecuador actually quite good. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. Like I said, I predicted them to not get a point at the group. I predicted them not to get a point in the group, and they've got 4, and they look very good. They've dominated Netherlands. I wouldn't say dominated, because in terms of ascendancy on the game, it was very similar, pretty similar. Maybe Ecuador had a little bit more ascendancy, but when you look at shots, and you look at chances created, Ecuador dominated, and it surprised me. It surprised me because I rated Netherlands so highly, especially after that Senegal game. I thought that smash and grab job style that they played was quite good, and I think when you versus a slightly worse side like Ecuador, you'd be able to hold the ball a little bit more and control possession a little bit more. But that obviously wasn't to be. They were just kind of playing the same way, and Cody Gakpo's a fucking freak. He's a freak. He's so good. He's unbelievable. Like, that goal is just, oh my goodness, unbelievable. Netherlands only had 2 shots for the whole game. which is quite concerning. But yeah, I don't really know what more to speak about this. Kind of because I want to wrap this up pretty soon. I want to try and make these podcasts 40 minutes max. That's my aim, 40 minutes. I don't want to really go that much over 40 minutes. Because I just can't. It adds up. It adds up eventually. Maybe like if cover 5 minutes for the episodes, then it'll add up. But yes, obviously, yeah, not a lot to speak about this game. It ended 1-1. Enner Valencia. Eh? He was the one that scored, didn't he? I swear he scored. I swear he was a goal scorer. Yeah. Yeah, he was. Spender Valencia, eh? How good? One of those like plays Streets will never forget. Maybe he wasn't that good for Streets will never forget, but he was still a very very handy player for West Ham. Did he play for another Prem team? Did he play for Everton? I think he might play for Everton as well. So it was a pretty handy play for both of those sides. So there you go. Good team doing it on the world stage. So yeah, what that means for the group is that Netherlands are all but through. Ecuador versus Senegal will be a great game to see who will get through in that group, which is going to be absolutely marvelous, and I can't wait for that game. It's going to be great. Yeah, that's going to be really good. The simultaneous kickoffs as well is going to be great. So anyway, let's finish up. Let's finish up and let's go. I want to speak about England versus USA, but I've spoken about everything else for too long. I want to speak on 4 points. I want to speak on 3 points quickly. One of them, Phil Foden. Now, a lot of people are very angry about Phil Foden not playing. He didn't even get a sub off the bench. A lot of people are very, very angry at this. Now, I agree. I think Phil Foden should be playing. I think he's probably one of the most talented players in that squad. Arguably one of maybe 3 or 4 world-class players in that squad alongside maybe Harry Kane. And, I mean, you're clutching at straws for the others, right? However, there is a certain games for certain players, right? And the way that, and this is obviously going to transition to a point which I'm going to touch on. The USA are actually a lot better than what a lot of people think, right? So when you look at Phil Foden in this game, it's kind of like, all right, what does he offer? He offers the ability to be able to take a man on, to collect the ball in those half spaces, swivel on a dime, and get through tight areas and get a shot opportunity, right? However, what that means is that he's going to be very susceptible to getting tackled, very susceptible to the turnover, which means England are going to be very susceptible on the counter attack. This side that England played was it was a side that offered a lot of comfortability and a lot of just patience and possession and a lot of calmness on the ball. Phil Foden, despite his talent and despite his brilliance, can be profligate at times. It can be a little bit like can give the ball away at times. So what Gareth Southgate was going for was a side that was going to be able to retain possession, be very composed, be very relaxed, and just wait for their opportunity instead of trying to force the issue. Phil Foden forces the issue, which at times makes him one of the best footballers in the world to watch. However, at times, it makes him one of the most frustrating footballers in the world to watch because he turns the ball over, he's profligate, and this will come with age. As he gets more experienced and as he gets more mature, he'll learn when to go and when not to go. This wasn't the game for Phil Foden. I think in the game against Iran, that was the game for Phil Foden. I think the next game against Wales, that'll be the game for Phil Foden because Wales aren't as dangerous as the USA on the counter-attack and will sit a lot deeper with a lot more numbers, meaning that there's a bigger chance for him to pick up the ball and be able to dictate the tempo slightly deeper from that left-hand side and really just show his class that way. The USA do press slightly higher, do press slightly more aggressively than Iran and Wales. So what that means is that they have the ability to get that turnover quickly and then hit on the counter-attack with pace. This wasn't the game for Foden. This doesn't mean that Southgate's a shit manager. This doesn't mean that Southgate doesn't know what he's doing. It actually means that Southgate knows exactly what he's doing because this wasn't the game for Phil Foden, in my opinion. Against Wales, 100% he should start and 100% he should be given all 90 minutes. And in the knockout stages, when they come up against better teams, when you need that bit of individual class, you need that ability to break a line or to take a man on or to get a shot off, he should start. I think this wasn't the game for him because of the dynamic between both sides and because of the way Gareth Southgate approached the game. If Southgate approached the game went hell for leather, all out attack, wanted to dominate the ball, dominate possession, and wasn't really that concerned about the USA's threat on the counter attack, then I think this was the game for Phil Foden in that regard. However, Gareth Southgate understood the threat that the USA had on the counter attack and realised, okay, this isn't the game for Phil Foden because of the reasons I've said. They're just my 2 cents on Foden. It just frustrated me a little bit because of everyone saying, "Oh, Phil Foden should play. Phil Foden should play." I agree. I think he probably should have come off the bench, but I don't necessarily think he should have started for the reasons I've said. What else am I going to touch on? The USA again. The USA are very good. I think the USA will get through. I think they'll beat Iran. I really like Iran. I really do. Like I said, but I think the USA just have a little bit more class. It was a very typical Gareth Southgate game. For the cause for Gareth Southgate to get sacked are fucking ridiculous. They're absolutely fucking absurd. It just shut up. Just shut up. Just shut up. You won 6-2, man. You won 6-2. You got 4 points. You're gonna beat Wales 5-0. You're gonna get through the group on 7 points, on 8 points, 7 points. And you're gonna be happy as Larry. Just relax. Just calm the fuck down, please. Like, oh my god, you ungrateful pricks. Like he's so not in any threat of being sacked. It's ridiculous. And who are you gonna bring in? Who are you going to bring in? What, his assistant, who has the exact same philosophies as him, or any of his backroom staff that have the exact same philosophy as him? It's going to be the worst thing in the world to sack him. It's going to be ridiculous. Anyway, let's finish up and let's go to the preview. They're just my 2 cents. Got me so angry watching that, and it's just so frustrating seeing people utterly just ridiculous. Like it's actually ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. Anyway, let's go to the preview as I calm down. 4 games. 4 games we're going to preview, and we're going to touch on Tunisia versus Australia. I want to speak on this briefly because I want to wrap it up. Australia must win. Must win. I'm not going to say it's easy. Because it won't be easy. It's going to be very tough. It's going to be a slog. But Australia must win. And by any means necessary. I don't care who you fucking verse or how you play. I don't care if it's a 90th minute dodgy penalty or an own goal or a goal off your fucking ass or whatever. I just want to fucking win. I just want to win. Because if we win, we get those 3 points. It's going to be our first 3 points since 2010. And we're going to go into that game against Denmark with literally everything to play for. Everything to play for. I can't wait. I'm nervous. I'm excited. It's hit me right now as I'm speaking about it. The nerves. 9 p.m. Get down to Fed Square if you're in Melbourne. Get down to literally any pub, any bar in your state, in wherever you are. Get around these boys because this is our fucking time. This is our chance to get 3 points. This is our chance to fucking plant our flag into this group and say, yeah, we're not done. We got beat 4-1, but this isn't over. We're going to go into this game against Denmark with fucking everything to play for. Come on, fucking... I love this tournament, man. I love this sport so much. Fuck. I'm not going to give a prediction. I'm not going to give a prediction for this game. I can't. I'm not going to give a prediction for this game. I can't. I don't want to jinx it. I'm not gonna jinx it because I jinxed it against France, so I'm not gonna jinx it. No prediction from me. Poland, Saudi Arabia, and for the rest of the games, I'm just gonna give a prediction without giving explanation like I did last time. Poland, Saudi Arabia. I'm gonna go with 2-0 Saudi Arabia. France, Denmark. 1-0 Denmark. 1-0. France, Denmark, 1-0. Argentina, Mexico. Argentina need to win, right? Fuck it. 3-2 Argentina. Fuck it. Get some goals. Get some goals going. We've had enough 0-0s. Let's get some goals. Yes. But we're done. Tick under 45 minutes. I hope this will be out in time. It's currently 12:52. If I've left this late again, I need to let this manage my time properly. But no. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of the 2-Footed Tackle podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Leave your thoughts and predictions in the comment section below. Leave your thoughts on whatever I've said. If you disagree with me, please express your opinions. I would love to have a debate with anyone. Love debating. I love differing opinions on football. It's great. It can bond people. It's pretty good. But no, yes. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave your predictions. Share it around, give it all the love, subscribe, all the socials. Like I said at the start, plugging all the stuff. Please do it. It would mean the world to me. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this is out at 2 p.m. Yes, we're going to be back. Come on, Australia. Surely we get it done. We have to get it done. Thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys next time. Goodbye.